You need to prepare and you need to take precautions. I've loved being here to inform you and advise you about coastal bend weather.
This will be Dale's last year as chief meteorologist.
Why did he decide to retire? What does Dale have left to say?
Where is he going to go?
This is a good time for me to retire.
This Chris 6 documentary special, Unforeseen Forecast, is sponsored by Texas Coast Heating and Air Conditioning.
Get South Texas' best forecast from meteorologist Del Nelson.
Fog came back in the coastal bend in a big way, and we're going to have a lot more tonight as well. What's ahead? We'll tell you later tonight.
Now, your Chris 6 weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Del Nelson.
I grew up all over the country. My dad was in the military. He was a colonel in the United States Air Force. And so we lived in Virginia, Illinois, Ohio, and Arizona. And so I've pretty much seen the whole country before I ever started becoming a meteorologist. And because of the fact that he was a pilot, I was interested in flying, but then my eyesight went bad. And this is before LASIK and wonderful eye doctors and ophthalmologists and so forth, that kind of fell by the wayside back in the 1970s and 80s. So I decided to become a meteorologist, and the main reason was because when we moved around the country, I noticed all the different climates that we had. My brother and I used to walk to school every day in Arizona. We never had to worry about snow or ice or anything like that. It was hardly ever cold there or anything. And yet when we lived in Illinois, there were days where the snow was so deep we never went to school. You know, we had snow days. I mean, real snow days, not like you see in the movies where they manufacture it, but the real knee-deep to a tall Indian snow.
For our first look at the future tracker forecast, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Dale Nelson in the Weather Center. Hi, Dale.
We certainly had some serious heat in the coastal bend as we topped out in the mid-90s here today. I was doing research work at the Storm Research Center in Houston after I graduated from college. And my boss, his name was Glenn Bujnak, and he was at a hurricane conference in New Orleans. And there was a hurricane, there was 2 hurricanes that had formed that day in the Atlantic, and KPRC in Houston called the Storm Research Center and said, hey, can we get one of your meteorologists to comment about the unusualness, how unusual it is for there to be 2 storms going on at once. Well, now we've had 3 and 4, but back then in the late 1970s, having 2 going on at once was very unusual. So they sent over a guy named Roger O'Neill, who was a network reporter, and he interviewed me because my boss was out of town. They needed somebody. And so I did the interview, and that was that afternoon. And that evening on the 6 and 10 o'clock news, I was on KPRC in Houston.
Now, Channel 2 News with Ron Stone. Jane Carson. Weather with Doug Johnson. Ron Franklin on sports.
The next day, I got a phone call from the executive producer at KPRC. And he said, hey, you know, have you ever thought about being on television? I think that you have potential to be a broadcast meteorologist and not just a meteorologist. And I said, okay. So he said, come by the station tomorrow. When can you come by? And I said, I can come by tomorrow between noon and 5 or something like that. And he said, okay, come on by. And we sat and talked, and he said, okay, well, I'm going to put you in our internship program that we started, and I want you to follow these meteorologists around here and we're going to do a screen test with you and put a tape together and get you on the air. So I said, outstanding. And that's how I got into television.
This is KRIS-TV Corpus Christi, concluding another day of broadcast service to the greater South Texas area.
I talked to a consultant, a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, there's an opening down in Corpus Christi. Why don't you go contact them? And we got together, and they gave me a plane ticket, and I came down here. I remember sitting at the Corpus Christi Country Club with the news director. His name was David Carochi, and the owner of the station, who was T. Frank Smith Jr. We met up later, and he said, well, you've got the job if you want it. And I was like, wow, okay, this is great. Let's see if we can, work out a deal. Everybody was happy.
This is KRIS-TV Corpus Christi, concluding another day of broadcasting service to the greater South Texas area. KRIS.
You need to take action now, either prepare or prepare to evacuate. This is the real deal. I keep saying it's gone from significant to serious, and it looks like it's about to jump to very serious.
But if Harvey had been 25 miles further west, Corpus Christi would have been devastated. Corpus Christi would have looked like Rockport and Port Aransas. There's a lot more to damage in Corpus Christi than there is in Rockport and Port Aransas. And 25 miles, this is according to some of the hurricane specialists that I talked to at hurricane conferences, and they told me that if it had been 25 miles further west, 25 miles, that there would have been a huge loss of life without those mandatory evacuation orders being issued for Corpus Christi. My in-laws, they used to stay forever. They lived here all their lives, and they used to stay for every storm. I mean, somebody got on TV and said there's a storm coming. They prepare the house, and so they prepare it, and they'd be ready for the storm, and they just stay. But then in 1970, on August 3rd, Celia came along, and their house started to come apart during the storm. And they had a 2-car garage, and there was a truck and a car in there, and a big live oak tree fell on the garage, pinning the car. So they got in my father-in-law's truck and went over to Alameda. He had an office, a business and an office, a second-floor office on a 2-story building. And their plan was, well, the house is coming apart, so in the eye of the storm, they drove over there, and it was just a few blocks. It was only about 2.5 or 3 miles away from Longview to Robert and Alameda, where they lived. They got over there, and their plan was to go and stay in my father-in-law's office on the second floor of that building. And they got over there, and the second floor was gone. So my mother-in-law got upset. She said, well, Donald, what are we going to do now? And they hurried back, and their lives were in danger. They thought they were going to die that day. Because will they get rain, maybe a little flooding? Yes. Will they get a little wind? Yes. Will they get a tornado or two? Yes. But will they survive the storm? Absolutely. If they stay here, you can't say that with any certainty. The meteorologist, it's highly unusual, but where somebody would leave saying, hey, this isn't worth me losing my life over, I'm leaving. But that's kind of like, the ship captain. You know how they say the ship captain has, like on the Titanic, you go down with the ship, right? He stayed. He didn't get in the lifeboat, he stayed. That's the same thing with a hurricane. If you're the broadcast meteorologist, that's when people depend on you the most. Not the least, the most. So you have to be there. It's part of the job, and you need to understand that. Management says that we can't force you to stay, but you really need to stay and provide that information, that vital information to people, because it could save lives and keep people from getting hurt as well. So I take that extremely seriously, and I would never leave during the storm.
Did you meet your wife here in Corpus?
Yes, Jennifer.
Okay.
Sure did. Yeah, it was set up by her friend, who was the daughter of the owner of the station. So we just hit it off. It was one of those things where we had a lot in common, and we both like to be outdoors and do a lot of things, and that's how it all got started. A long time ago, but definitely memories worth having for sure. And back then, when we went on the honeymoon, we went to the Cayman Islands, because I thought back then that October, the hurricane season's winding down. Well, the hurricane season's winding down here big time. It's over with here in South Texas, in Corpus Christi, but in the Cayman Islands down in the Caribbean, it's still could be raging on. And we just got extremely lucky, because I think nearly every year since then, in October, there's been a storm down in the Caribbean Sea in October. So, except 1984, which there was nothing. It was just sunny, and that was it. I had opportunities to leave here, but I love this area. I love the people here. And in fact, I even told the owner of the station about the interview in New York City, and it was for a competing news network with CNN.
This is the Satellite News Channel. Give us 18 minutes, we'll give you the world.
This is your Satellite News Channel. I'm Jose Grignon.
But my wife had a lot of roots here. She had a business here, a lot of family here, and that was more important. So I stayed. Yeah. She passed away 4 years ago. Somebody that you love and cherish and worship passes away. You have to reflect, and you have to move on. You just that's what she would have wanted. You can't just stop because she stopped. It just was a bad situation. She had cancer, and MD Anderson was always 2 steps behind, and so it didn't work out. So she struggled with cancer for over 9 years. And you hear about people battling cancer, and she was one of those people. Jennifer was one of those people that battled cancer. And it started out as breast cancer, and ended up being colon cancer, and then it ended up being all over cancer. And she eventually, succumbed to that. When you see someone die, though, you could never forget that. Never. So, I think that's about all I have to say about that. Griffin knew that Jennifer was sick, and she swears that he's the one that he would come up and smell her chest, and that's where the cancer originated. And so she thinks that he knew before anybody else did, before her doctors knew that she had cancer. We took a dog that came in off the streets of Alice, Texas, that was all beaten up and chewed up by ticks and fleas and everything, and changed his life. And then he changed ours. So, but he started going downhill like within a month after she passed away. And he knew she was gone, and it was, he knew it was hard on him, just like it was on everybody that knew her. The reason I decided to retire is because I think it's just time for me to retire. I've been doing this for 44 years, 42 here in the Coastal Bend. I love doing it. It's just that the technology has changed and the television industry has changed. It needs to be done. You know, there's a lot of younger people that, coming up the ranks that can do the weather better than I can.
Chris 6 weather forecast.
Hey there, and welcome back to your news at 5. So
with a beautiful beginning of the day, sunrise.
Well, we're not done with heat alerts just yet. The National Weather Service did just issue a
And
heat advisory.
I think that serves the Coastal Bend viewers in a very positive way. The other thing is that I have other things that I want to do. I'm getting married next year. Jennifer wouldn't have wanted me to, stop what I was doing or change what I was doing, but to keep going. And so that's exactly what I did, because that was, what she wanted. Susie's everything. She's my #1 fan. She's my fiance. We're going to get married next year. And I've known Susie. We've known each other for almost 5 years, and it's been a wonderful romance for all that time. I think the first time I ever really saw her cry was when I proposed to her on the Riverwalk in San Antonio in front of a carriage, a horse-drawn carriage. So anyway, I was as surprised as she was about the whole situation when she said yes. I didn't think she was going to say yes. She was in silence for a while after I asked. But anyway, that's where we stand, and she means the world to me, of course, as any partner would, and she is. I'm looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her, and she makes me very happy. And Preston likes her too.
Dale, Jaime, how did this come together, this kind of last minute sort of Thanksgiving dinner for Channel 6?
We got hungry. I was so busy forecasting the weather and trying to get it right that I never really thought about it, to be honest with you. It went by quick. It's maybe that's an indication of how much I love my job at Chris 6, because it went by really fast. It was a challenge, but it wasn't a chore. It was something that I wanted to get up and do every day. And weather is like, I had a professor at school tell me this once, weather is like a movie. If you get up in the middle of a movie and go get some popcorn or something, come back, you've missed part of it. That's the way the weather is. You've got to kind of keep, even though the weekend comes around and you might take a break from, going into the office and everything, you still have to keep up with what's going on, because otherwise you get lost in the changes that Mother Nature is throwing at us. So yeah, it's gone by quick, and as far as the way it turned out, I have this letter here that was email that was sent to me, if I can read it, something that just came out of the blue. And it says, "Dear Dale, I wanted to take a moment today to say congratulations on your retirement. You don't know me, but I grew up in Corpus Christi, and my parents lived in your neighborhood for a number of years in Portland. My mother is Lenora Keys, the vice president at Del Mar College. You were one of the people I grew up watching and influenced my career to get into television. I actually interned at Channel 6 on the weekends for a year in 1998 and 1999 while still a senior at King High School. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you for influencing a young kid from South Texas to live out his dream in local TV. I wish you the best in this next chapter of your life. Warm regards, Mark Kurtz." And it says here that he's the general manager of a TV station. Thank you for watching. I appreciate I appreciate you watching and appreciate you taking the time to do so. When you've stopped me in the grocery store or at a school or at a function and said, made a comment about this or that helped me be a better meteorologist, I thank you for that as well. As Susie's always said, I like to talk to people, and I do, maybe a little bit too much sometimes, but I appreciate the information that has come forth in those conversations from residents in the Coastal Bend. And, even though I wasn't born here, I've lived here a lot longer than most people have. And even though I'm not a Texan, I consider this area home, and it'll always be that way. If I do move away from here, it probably won't be too far. Just far enough to be away from hurricanes, but not far enough to be out of this Lone Star State.
The hill country extending northward, snow behind this for the skiers, and windy here Friday. Dog walking, so we'll tell you if it's going to rain again or not and tell you all about it. We'll be back before summer sets in.
All right.
Got a long time for that.
Don't put a
Tuesday morning. So with the lighter winds, how hot does it actually get tomorrow? What about the weekend and the tropics are starting to get a little more active. In a few minutes, I'll be back to tell you all about it. For one last time, when we come back, I'll tell you all about it. But I think you already know.
From the Channel 6 studios, this is KRIS 6 News at 6.